All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are honored to be sitting down with Ziad Abdelnour. He is the CEO and founder of Blackhawk Partners. Thank you so much, Ziad, for joining us today.
My pleasure, Justin.
So you call yourself a radical capitalist, and I want to talk a lot about that. But you also are involved in the Bitcoin industry, and I wanted to start there as we kind of work our way through a number of topics today, including institutional Bitcoin, as well as capitalism and radical capitalism and a little bit more. So Ziad, can you tell us what is the state of institutional Bitcoin today? Are institutions adopting Bitcoin like so many say?
Yes, indeed. The larger institutions are adopting Bitcoin. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, hedge funds, galore. And it's only going to increase. This is an asset class that's worth considering, that's been tested with a lot of people, institutions, hedge fund managers, private investors, large private investors, and is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Yes, there may be some regulations in the future, but so what? Everything is regulated to a certain extent. So what? If you don't play the market because it's going to be regulated? I mean, people, look, anybody who has held Bitcoin 4 years and more has made a killing, a fortune. I'm not talking about 10, 20%, 300, 400%, 1,000%, etc., depending on the time you acquire the Bitcoins. Like every asset class, you have to buy and hold. You can trade, but I believe you can make much more money by buying and holding and buying the dips and having the balls to wait. It's like the stock market. Of course, it depends on which crypto, not just Bitcoin. You're not going to make the kind of return in Bitcoins and in specific crypto. So it's an asset class that's here to stay. And I allocate a significant amount of my capital to that. And I'm planning to stay so, no matter what's happening in the future.
What's been your experience with Bitcoin? I think a lot of people were perhaps familiar with economic ideas such as Austrian economics before they landed on Bitcoin, or even perhaps libertarian ideals. In the Bitcoin code itself, there is a reference to the bailouts that were taking place at that time. Bitcoin's a deflationary currency. There will only ever be 21 million, which is in some ways a commentary on inflationary monetary policies. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience with Bitcoin and what it means to you in the world?
Look, that's a good question, Justin. Bitcoin, I rarely sold Bitcoins, believe it or not, even in the worst times. I don't allocate all my portfolio in Bitcoins, but significant amount. I rarely sold it. Same thing with stock market. This is why I did very, very well. Bitcoin is not for the faint of heart. Stocks also are not for the faint of heart. It's for people who believe in it. I believe in it because it's a whole decentralization process. It's about freedom for me. Bitcoin is about freedom. Is about taking control of your life. It means much more than a speculative instrument to make money. It's been speculative. It's still to a certain extent, but it's going to become with time less and less speculative and more traditional. Maybe now 2% of the people, the average holding of Bitcoin today is maybe 2% to 5% of your portfolio, but it's increasing and more people are adopting it as an asset class. So, I really don't, despite all the negative stuff that they write on Bitcoin about regulation, about the scam, it's not a scam. It's here to stay. My experience has been tremendous, tremendous. I never lost money on Bitcoin, maybe on paper, but not upon realization.
When you say that you think it'll become more traditional, what do you think that will look like moving forward?
More and more people, they're getting Bitcoins as part of their portfolio. Your portfolio today, the typical stocks, bonds, real estate, gold, commodities, more and more are going to get Bitcoin. Percentage of Bitcoin in your portfolio is going to become more, maybe sometimes 10%. I know some people even who have 100% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. That's pretty much too much. So more people are going to be familiarized with it. More people are going to learn about it. A lot of courses, a lot of experts teaching it all over. YouTube channel, everything. So people are learning about it very fast.
I'm curious what you mean when you think that for you, Bitcoin means freedom. I want to read a quote. This is a quote from a Bitcoin 2021, the conference that took place in Miami, Florida in April. There was some representatives there, and particularly during this talk, Senator Lummis from Wyoming made some comments about Bitcoin, but particularly referencing banks. She stated that it's my personal feeling that banking is really worried about having their business model changed so dramatically by Bitcoin, and they're reacting in fear. Do you think that Bitcoin and I guess other cryptocurrencies could force banks to rethink their business model?
Banks will adapt. Right now, they are afraid, you're right, and they view it as a threat. You remember 3 years ago, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan was saying, oh, this is a fad, this is crap, don't do that, don't buy it, don't do that. Then now he starts, he basically took the opposite direction completely. Same thing with the other institutions. It's bigger than them. The movement, the thing is bigger than them. They will adapt. They will not let these platforms compete with them. They will crush them. They will go into that. They will create their own funds. They haven't yet. They will create their own funds. They will create their own models to embrace Bitcoin. Banks are not leaders. Banks are followers. The entrepreneurs are leaders. These guys who started these platforms are the leaders. They will follow. They will adapt. They're not going to go out of business. You see, if you can't beat them, join them, as they say. If you can beat the trend, join it, and they will join it in a massive force. I'm not worried about banks. I'm worried about the individuals. I think about the individual making money, obscene money, and acquiring wealth and acquiring more freedom. That's the key.
Do you have any other thoughts on like Bitcoin and freedom generally? If banks adopt Bitcoin, will that undermine the potential for it to give individuals freedom? Could it be co-opted? One critique I have of the lawyers in the Bitcoin space is that the entire time the lawyers have been in the Bitcoin space, they've been begging for regulatory clarity. And it seems to me that regulatory clarity is somewhat of a euphemism for more control. There's a lot of financial regulations on the books in the United States dating back to the Bank Secrecy Act of 1933, the Securities Act of 1933. And then we also have such robust AML and KYC policies in this country that a lot of companies won't even do business here. So I wonder, what are your thoughts on like, commercial adoption of Bitcoin? Will it diminish its potential to bring the individual freedom? And then also your thoughts on this begging for regulatory clarity that I see on the side of Bitcoin lawyers?
Look, of course, Bitcoin lawyers will ask for that. They will get paid much more by creating laws and regulations. That's their agenda, obviously. I'm not surprised of that. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It will happen with time. Look, you have regulation. You'll always have regulation with time, depending on who's in power doing the regulation. If you have a socialist government doing the regulation, that's very bad. Very bad, whatever the regulations are, because they are excessive. They hinder growth, they hinder wealth creation, and all that stuff. If you have a more pro-growth kind of government doing the regulation, it's sensitive. to people. They want people to grow, to prosper. So do you have a growth policy or an anti-growth policy? And the people doing the regulations, not the lawyer and their ideas and their opinions, who matter. So it's very important to see how things will go forward here in the 22 elections, in the 24 elections, etc. And yes, it is political. People tell you it's not political. Everything is political. Everything. Growth of an asset class, everything is political. So this is something you will not know until you know who's in power, creating these growth policies on regulations. And you position yourself accordingly. Look, give you an example, okay? I mean, you have to be nimble. You have to, a lot of people don't pay attention to the politics, to the geopolitics. They say, oh, this is business. I don't talk politics. I don't do politics. That's wrong. If you really want to know what's happening and want to position yourself properly, you have to understand geopolitics. You have to understand really what's happening. Give you an example, after COVID hit the market, okay, the stock market went from 28,000 to 23,000. So what do? Oh, I'm going to panic and put my mask and pray things to have to be better. Short the market. You can make money whether you short the market or you go long, as long as you know or you predict what's going to happen based on intelligence, based on gathering the intelligence, not based on people's thoughts, etc. And we do a lot of that, event-driven investing. We invest based on events that are going to happen, and we make big bets based on that, whether in the Bitcoin asset class or other asset class. This is what being a radical capitalist means. Whatever the wind turns, whoever is in power, you make money by understanding what's happening. Now, people don't. They're very narrow-minded. It's a narrow view of things. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yeah, I'm thinking that the news is the news. There's this word new in it, and it seems to keep people focused on that which is new without any questions as to what's come before, what's on the news today. I'm curious, could you kind of speak to the question, is Bitcoin a capitalist invention? Is Bitcoin a product of capitalism in your view?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's pure capitalism. It's pure decentralization. It's pure freedom. It's absolutely. Look, I can go into a historical thing, how the Federal Reserve started back in 1913. I wrote books about that. Read my book, Economic Warfare. And this came out of these situations. Things don't come by mistake in a vacuum. Things come because of factors that happen that made smart people come up with things to outsmart the system. It's all being that. It's all about outsmarting the system. You come up with products, services, asset classes to outsmart the system because the system has become very restrictive. So at the end of the day, when I invest in things, I invest in people. I follow people. These are the guys who make the news. Who's making the news? And how you position yourself accordingly. But yes, the short answer to the question, it is a pure capitalism.
There's a lot of mistaken beliefs about capitalism, that it's some like ugly system and that it's responsible for all of the suffering in the world today. A lot of my peers from high school were never taught that they don't live in a capitalist system, and they never actually did live in a capitalist system. When you have a system in which a central bank is managing monetary policy, you're not in a capitalist system, for instance.
So could you... I understand what you mean. These guys don't read, don't know shit. There's a difference between crony capitalism and capitalism. There's a lot of crony capitalism out there. This is bad. This hurts people. This stunts growth. And unfortunately, people are the enemies of capitalism are promoting crony capitalism. And crony capitalism exists. I'm not saying I'm not denying. But real capitalism, not crony capitalism, there's a big difference. It creates jobs, it creates opportunities, it creates growth, it empowers the people, all that kind of stuff. You know, you can't say we all have to be equal. Bring down the capitalists down so they are at the same level of the other people. No, can't do that. This doesn't work. These guys are the fuel of the economy. We can talk about hours about that, but you know what? You have to dissociate capitalism with crony capitalism. Lots of crony capitalism today.
So like, what is capitalism for people who are totally mistaken? Can you explain to them what it is? For me, it's like individuals being able to enter into transactions with one another and interact in a free manner without a third party coming in and having to regulate or I guess even take a bit from that transaction in the form of taxes or otherwise. That is high taxes.
That's very correct. And crony capitalism is taking this to the extreme and abusing the system. Once you abuse that simple system, it becomes crony capitalism. That's the difference. But the way you articulated it is very correct. That's it. Free trade, regulation. Look, there's always has to be regulation. If not, people go berserk. But to a certain extent, not abuse it.
What excites you about working with entrepreneurs and teaching them how to be not only just financially independent, but to make obscene amounts of money, as you stated?
Success for me is about empowering people. That's success. It's not how much money I make. If I empower the right people and in quantity, I'm going to be very successful. And I am because of that. Success is about empowering people. Make no mistake about it. And money is about freedom. It's not about making money. You empower more people to be successful, wealthy, and free. Find how to back them. Find them, back them, work with them, empower them, build them up. That's success. And it's very exciting because you change people's lives. That's how you impact people's lives. You change people's lives for the better. They become smarter, more educated, and make more money. It's totally unselfish. You know, you have to do it like this. Crony capitalism is selfish. The real capitalism it's not selfish. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Empower people, build them up, back their businesses, create more opportunities, create more jobs, make them think. People don't think anymore. It's exciting. What's more exciting? Nothing.
In basic economics, real economics, essentially, there's a notion called the principal agent problem. And it stipulates that essentially individuals can make better decisions for themselves than can a few people. Now, I think where a lot of people get confused is they think, oh, if we're just making decisions for ourselves, then we're all being selfish. And that's how we get, I guess, a crony capitalism, even if they don't.
Look, you have to lose this guilty thing. Oh, I'm privileged. Oh, I'm smart. Oh, I'm better. You see, let me tell you something. And I see this today in schools and colleges. You know, you'll always have a winner and a loser. You can't treat everybody equally. In school, in grammar school, you can't give every student a lollipop so that they feel good. Sometimes it's good to feel real bad, to bounce back and be successful. Look at Steve Jobs. He founded Apple, they fired him from the board. He came back with a vengeance, built $1 trillion company and fired them all because he felt like shit. Sometimes when you feel like shit, it triggers something in you. They say, I'm not gonna take this shit. I'm gonna do well. You rebel and become more successful. So, you know, sometimes you have to feel, this is life. Life is not like so simple. Everybody has to feel good. You can't be offended. You can't be hurt. No, that's not life. That's not reality. This is fantasy. Sometimes these feelings are good because it helps you rebuild your life much more successfully than just feeling okay all the time. Feelings trigger action. And sometimes bad feeling will trigger you to overcome that and succeed, or go berserk on the street and start terrorizing people.
In the principal agent problem, I think a lot of people are mistaken in thinking that if you're making decisions only for yourself, then you're being selfish. They have that guilt complex, as you highlighted. However, they demonstrate.
You have to help people, you have to help yourself first. There's nothing wrong with it. If you don't help yourself and become successful yourself, how are you going to help people? So you have to, yes, you have to think about yourself first, and there's nothing selfish in it.
They demonstrate too that they're so obsessed with fitting in and being a part of a community or a crowd or a clique that let's say they became capitalists, their actions to help themselves would almost be attuned to helping their community. I think that when we help ourselves, actually, we help our community. There's this, I guess.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. And it comes first. Helping yourself comes first before helping, so that you are able to help the community. How are you going to help the community if you don't help yourself and become successful yourself and be a role model for the guys who didn't make it to learn from you how to do it? Look, listen to something. People say we're all equal. Bullshit. It's a load of crap. We're not born equal. We don't live equal. We don't die equal. We can't all be equal in this world. There's always going to be people who are smarter, or more aggressive, or more successful, or wealthier. We can't all drive a Rolls Royce and live on Fifth Avenue. It's not going to happen. There's not enough space or anything. Same story. We can't. So this concept of equality or equity is all crap. This is to control people. People sell this propaganda to control people, not because they care so much, oh my God, about your health and your well-being. They don't give a rat's ass. They want to control you with slogans, and the naive younger people believe that crap. Because they've never seen anything else, they believe that crap. So it's the charisma or the forcefulness of the leader who's saying this who makes people believe them. It's bullshit. Don't ever believe that. You have to believe yourself first. You have to build your own skills first. I follow Ayn Rand, individualism, objectivism. You know, you have to take care of yourself first. And once you get there, help people do that. Be successful like you, even more than you. The whole world will change with this attitude. And stop this guilt factor. Oh, I am privileged, I am white, I am Christian, I am a capitalist. This is all bullshit. There's nothing to be apologetic about. And apologetic to who? Who are these people? Who are going to justify yourself to them? Who the hell are they? To justify yourself, well, they are gods, they are the authority. What authority? Rebel, for God's sake. Grow some fucking balls.
Balls built America. That's a slogan.
Yeah.
It's a slogan.
Balls built America. I love it. You're absolutely right. Look at how it was at the turn of last century. The guys who built America, the ball busters, the Morgan, the Rockefeller, the Ford, the Carnegie, the etc., etc. I mean, you see what happened today, unfortunately, you know, they took it even to the further extreme, the crony capitalism. And this is why you have this resentment on capitalism, because of the cronyism of the actual billionaires of today. Not all of them, but a big number of them, especially the guys in social media. You know, absolute power, absolute control. There's no such thing as absolute power of control, and they want to take it to the next level. And this is why people are resentful. But people are not that nuanced. They don't read between the lines. For them, it's all the same. It's not all the same.
For those socialists out there who are maybe repenting of their socialism and they want to start down this path of capitalism and learning how to be independent and make money for themselves without a boss, for instance. And this is something I've realized as an aside about the wage workers and the people who have become entrepreneurs in my life, that the ones who have always worked for under somebody kind of are sheltered from the real world, because that boss is the one who's out there fighting every day, ensuring that they have wages, ensuring the business is making money. There's a laundry list of things that somebody who runs the business has to do that the wage worker doesn't do. And I find the wage workers are sheltered. There's no other way to put it. So what advice do you have for a socialist who wants to be a capitalist? Where do they start?
Well, number one, you have to educate yourself a lot. Read a lot about everything, about capitalism, about socialism. People don't read. People don't have time to read. People get on their cell phone and just look at a few things, browse things. There's no more reading. There's no more depth. There's no more substance. It's all, it comes and goes so fast. They don't register things. It goes from one ear to the other. They watch these spots on TV and they listen to politicians who are power hungry and have their own agenda. Get out of this whole atmosphere. Read a lot. Educate yourself a lot. 1, 2. That's step 1. Step 2. Find a few mentors who think like this, who have done it, who have succeeded, who have big brass fucking balls, who are making waves. Try to meet them. Try to connect with them. Try to, write them, meet them. A lot of them are very open to people like that. I'm very open to receiving inquiries from people, from socialists who want to do the business. I mentor a lot of people, free. I don't charge on that. That's fine. And I'm sure a lot of people will do that. 2, 3, find a passion. What do you like to do? What do you like to accomplish? Other than having a paycheck, what do you like to accomplish? Find a passion. If you find a mentor and find a passion and get educated about it, you're going to go a long way. It's a long story, Justin, but that's the beginning. That's the beginning. This is the start.
And there's options at our fingertips to start buying and selling and getting a feel for that type of thing. For instance, you can go to garage sales and find deals at garage sales and then flip them online. When you go to the garage sales, you can have your smartphone with you. You can be looking at eBay listings and seeing if you're able to buy something and make a profit. NFTs. I'm not a big NFT person.
Look, there's never been a time in human history where you can make more money than today, because you have so many asset classes, you have so many products, you have access to the internet, the biggest access to information all over the world. It's the easier. People that, it's becoming today more difficult. No. It's becoming much easier today to make money than 10, 20, 50 years ago. Much easier. Access to information, access to intelligence, access to people, access to products. If you were an early adopter of Bitcoins, look at how much money you have made without even a degree. And other products today, cryptos. Read, educate yourself. People don't educate themselves. They listen to their teachers who are mostly socialists, who don't want them to make this kind of money. You have to have a burning passion to really make money. Educate yourself and surround yourself with people, experts, who are going to help you accelerate the process. It's as simple as that.
There's a quote by Thomas Paine that I'll read. Society is produced by our wants, and government by wickedness. Society promotes our happiness positively by uniting our affections. Government negatively by restraining our vices. Do you have any thoughts? What does America mean to you?
Well, the America of today, unfortunately, has changed a lot. It's not the America which I came to 30 years ago. The America I came to 30 years ago was about, you know, the sky is the limit. You can do whatever you want as an immigrant, as an entrepreneur, etc. No holds barred. The America of money, finance, growth, capitalism, Reagan years, junk bonds, leverage finance, greed is good. That was the America of 30 years ago. You can do whatever you want. Today, it's the age of diminished expectations. You have to be happy. You have to be happy because you have a roof on top of your head. You have to be careful on what you say because you might offend some people. Is the time of wimps, sheeples, believing blindly some theories or what the government tells you. It's exactly the opposite. The pendulum has swung back from total right to total left. That's very different. And this really pisses me off. And I do everything to change the outcome, to educate people, empower people, outsmart the system, all legally. You can do all that stuff legally. When I say outsmart the system, people tell you, oh my God, no, we're not doing anything illegal here. We're doing it legally, but in a smart way. When to go long, when to go short, when to be in that asset class, what people to interact with, what deals to do. That's all legal. But that's thinking like a capitalist, not basically giving up to everything the government says. They don't want your best interest. They want to. It's all about money, power, and control for them. It's very simple. If you don't get this by now, you're a fucking idiot. It's all about money, power, and control. So we have to do a lot of, you know what Reagan used to say, once you lose your freedom, you can't take it back. Freedom is fought every generation. So it's not like, oh my God, we're gonna rest on our laurels right now. Because we rested on our laurels, this is what happened. We took it for granted. We took America for granted. You can't take it for granted. This country happens once in a lifetime for people. There's no country like this on planet Earth. But you have to fight for it. Freedom is not free.
There's a quote written by Charles Inglis during the time of the American Revolution. So that's Charles Inglis, Inglis, and he wrote a reply to Common Sense, which was written by Thomas Paine. And he writes that about what is a constitution. We think of constitution as a piece of paper, and he suggests that the constitution is actually the people and the assemblage of laws and everyone coming together to create something. And that was, in his view, the Constitution of the United States. And as you're saying, the Constitution from when you first arrived to now has changed. He writes in his reply to Common Sense, quote, "What is the Constitution? That word so often used, so little understood, so much perverted. It is, as I conceive, that assemblage of laws, customs, and institutions which form the general system according to which the several powers of the state are distributed and their respective rights are secured to the different members of the community." So for him, it was essentially much more than, as John Adams argued, a frame, a scheme, a system, a combination of powers, or it was those things and less a piece of paper. Any thoughts?
Very well said. I agree 100%.
Now, I hear a lot about a new form of capitalism, stakeholder capitalism, which according to the World Economic Forum is a form of capitalism in which companies seek long-term value creation by taking...
That's bullshit. This is coming from Klaus Schwab, the chairman of World Economic Forum, which is a bunch of globalists hungry for power, money, and more control. Everything the World Economic Forum utters is totally for me crap. There's no stakeholder capitalism. That we're all equal capitalism-wise. So they're using the word capitalism, but etc. Corporations, we don't want corporations to control. The socialists want corporations to control. They don't want the rebels. They don't want the entrepreneurs. They don't want the business people. They don't want the wealth creators, because they are they change the outcome. They want control. Let me get rid of this. Sorry. They want control, Justin. Everything that's promoted by the corporations is about for more control. What I'm calling for is less control, more people's control, not corporations' control. The agenda of the World Economic Forum, believe it or not, I've been there, I've been invited there, I will never go there again, is total control. Klaus Schwab is an enemy. I don't want to even hear what he says. I know what he's saying. Hold on a second. I'll call you right back. Sorry, guys. I should have put this off. I'm going to put it off.
No problem. I can edit this part out.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, I mean, I don't believe in stakeholder capitalism. Look, capitalism, real capitalism, is capitalism without a net. And I'm for it. There's no net. If you have a net, then it becomes socialism. If you can't take the risk, don't take it. But you can't impose on people not having the risk factor. There's no growth if there's no risk. Risk is always there and will always be there. It's not for everybody. It's not. But to go and put a net on that, you say, oh, this is your cap. You cannot make more than that because some idiot decided that. Who the hell is he to decide the cap out there? Who are you, God, to decide what cap? It's none of your business. Capitalism has no net. Means, and this is why we're practicing the wrong capitalism. If you fuck up, there's no bailouts. This is it. You can't go and fuck up and be bailed out again and again and again. That's not capitalism. You made a mistake, meaning you're incompetent, you took the wrong risk, you're out. Nobody's going to bail you out. This thing about, oh my God, practice capitalism, if you bail out, we'll take care of you. That's wrong.
So you're mentioning corporations and of course these big social media giants, for instance, you would argue that these aren't necessarily a product of capitalism as much as they are perhaps crony capitalism. So they're crony corporations.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned okay, so stakeholder capitalism, of course, as usual with socialist thinkers, it's very opaque what they mean. They don't come out and just say what they mean. It's
all bullshit. It's all bullshit to give you with the sassy words, stakeholder, friendship, unity. It's all bullshit. Decency, all the shit that they give you, all the deal. We have to be decent. Yeah, you know what? Listen, capitalism is this. You make it big time. Good for you. You're a billionaire. You're a trillionaire. Good for you. You don't. Nobody's going to bail you out. So that you learn. You only learn from your mistakes, from your failures. You don't learn from your successes. From your successes, it goes up to your head. You think you're too important and you are invulnerable. No. People have to be taught a lesson. This is the lesson of capitalism. And when you learn the lesson, it makes you stronger. It makes you more aggressive. The government has no role here to help people bail them out, like all these banks were bailed out. This is bullshit because you have the same people in power again. All the incompetent who fucked up are now in power again. So it's a vicious circle.
So you mentioned bailouts. We've seen the stimulus over the last year and a half now. And to quote Henry Hazlitt, who was an editor at the New York Times, he's an Austrian economist. He writes, "Inflation is the opium of the people."
Yeah.
Now, Elon Musk told Joe Rogan, quote, "This notion that you can send checks out to everybody is not true, obviously. Some people have this absurd view of the economy that it is like some magic horn of plenty, like it just makes stuff. There's a magic horn of plenty and the goods and services come from this magic horn of plenty. And if someone has more stuff than someone else, it's because they took more from this magic horn of plenty. Let me just break it down for the fools out there," says Elon. "If you don't make stuff, there is no stuff. So if you don't make the food, process the food, and transport the food, or do medical treatments like getting teeth fixed, there's no stuff. You can't just legislate money and solve these things. If you don't make stuff, there is no stuff.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I totally espouse Elon Musk's views. Brilliant. He's a true capitalist.
So what are your thoughts on the stimulus that has gone on and on since March 2020?
I mean, stimulus or not, this is not, you know, you don't put people out of jobs because of the stupid vaccine and then give them stimulus money. You know, you create more jobs. At the end of the day, the wisest advice is that follow the money, not the science. Maybe the science, but not our scientists, because our scientists are fucked up, those who are preaching the science. Follow the money. So you create jobs, you keep them open, you don't shut down everything and lock down everybody and impose all these things and expect growth and give them stimulus money. Giving them stimulus money is having more control over them, more dependence on their part, more hopelessness, and tons of problems. What happens is, what should happen is exactly the reverse. Trump was right. Trump was right in everything. I'm not here, you know, saying this because, oh, he's a Trump fan. No. I am a fan of capitalism. I'm a fan of growth, prosperity, happiness, fulfillment for the people. Trump's policies follow that. Biden's policies are exactly the reverse. And yes, it is political.
This brings us back to the principal agent problem, in which the few cannot make decisions for the many, that individuals are better off making decisions for themselves. I think we saw that with the lockdown. And then, of course, when we're looking at science and then the medical practice, there's been scientific studies done before, which suggest that we can't just blindly trust people because they're the new priest class in white doctor coats. There's the Milgram experiment, in which somebody in a white lab coat told a subject to continue pressing a button which zapped somebody with electricity in another room, in an adjacent room. And that person who was, you know, tied up and being zapped, although it was all make-believe, would scream. And yet
take this. Why it off? Sorry, go ahead. Keep on. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. There's the Milgram experiment, in which a subject was told by somebody in a white lab coat to continue administering shocks to somebody in an adjacent room. So the doctor would say, press the button, and then somebody would scream in the other room, like scream bloody murder. And the person would, as the doctor told them to keep pressing, would keep pressing until the theoretical point of death. So they learned in the Milgram study that you could teach somebody to essentially, that you could tell somebody to kill somebody else if the person giving the instructions was in a white lab coat. And so I think that just kind of brings me back to the principal agent issue. You can't have the few making decisions for the many. Individuals are better off making decisions for themselves. And then we have the Milgram experiment, which suggests that we certainly do not blindly trust doctors.
Absolutely. Remember Ayn Rand, individualism, objectivism. You have to think for yourself. You have to build yourself. You have to educate yourself. And there is no better time than today to do that.
What is radical capitalism? And how does it differ from regular capitalism?
Radical capitalism is passionate capitalism. It's passion. It's taking it to the extreme. All the billionaires are radical capitalists. That's for sure. They wouldn't be billionaires, but not having radical views, different views. You see, I honestly compare the billionaires are like the homeless in terms of, I know you've never heard this before. The homeless, they don't care. They will do anything to get out of what they want. The billionaires are like this too. They don't care. They don't have roots. They have their own roots. They have an unlimited passion. They have their own rules, and they're going to go for it, no matter what the people think about them, no matter what the people say about them. They're going to do it. That's radical. They have their own rules. They've built their own fiefdom. They've built their own views to the world. Nothing stops them. Nobody would stop them. I mean, look at Bezos or Thing going to in space or others. Nothing stops them. That's being radical. The nice capitalist is the guy who's very rich, who has a nice job, who makes some good money, etc. He has no specific things to conquer. He's happy, with what he has. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. He believes in individual freedom, individual growth, merit. But the radical are people who take it to the extreme. They want to change the world. And they do change the world. Steve Jobs, Musk, Bezos, everybody, they do change the world.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the connection between capitalism and freedom?
Well, look, it's very simple. When you have money, you can afford to do, but money is about freedom. You can afford to do whatever you want. You don't have to work for a boss. You don't have to take orders from anybody. You really are free. I'll tell you the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is you go and tell your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, let's plan for a trip in the Bahamas. Okay, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Being wealthy is, let's go right now in 1 hour. You have no constraints, no time constraints, no nothing. It's having time to do whatever you want, whenever you want, without asking anybody's permission. That's freedom. When you get to that level, you are a radical capitalist. You're truly free. No constraints. You can say and do whatever you want. You're not afraid of losing your job. You're not afraid of what people think about you. You're not afraid of any of that crap that's made up by society. You don't feel guilty about anything. You just go do it. Like all these radical capitalists. These are the capitalists. This is freedom. This is freedom. Freedom is to do whatever you want without any constraint, as long as it's legal. Of course, you're not going to go and kill people, etc. As long as it's legal.
I want to wrap up here today with just talking about freedom and like what it means to you and how it drives you, generally speaking. A lot of your posts online on your Instagram and Twitter have to do with freedom. So like, what is freedom to you, and how does your personal experience inform your view of freedom?
I mean, I came to this conclusion by myself, by reading a lot, by interacting with a lot of people, by doing business, etc. This is not something I was taught. A few decades of experience, working in the trenches, creating wealth, dealing with people, writing, reading, etc., made me come to this conclusion as an immigrant. I want to be free. I came to this country for freedom, as an immigrant, legal immigrant, for freedom. But I worked hard on it. It's not a question of coming for freedom and freedom is going to come in your laps because the government is going to give you some stimulus money and help you. That's not freedom. That's even being more in chains when this happens. Freedom is to be totally independent of anyone. The government, a corporation, your boss, anything, in anyone. That's freedom.
Henry Hazlitt wrote about inflation and what it does to undermine freedom. You mentioned stimulus. Quote, inflation discourages all prudence and thrift. It encourages squandering, gambling, reckless waste of all kinds. It often makes it more profitable to speculate than to produce. It tears apart the whole fabric of stable economic relationships. It's inexcusable. Injustices drive men toward desperate remedies. It plants the seeds of fascism and communism. It leads men to demand totalitarian controls. It ends invariably in bitter disillusion and collapse.
Sure.
And that references the stimulus, which of course many economic thinkers suggest, probably rightfully, that it could lead to inflation. And I think we're seeing inflation in food prices.
Of course, it's coming. It's here. It's not even coming. It's here.
Any other comments about your work, what you're up to, about capitalism, radical capitalism, or any of the services that you're offering?
I just want more people to think like this for their own benefit. Free yourself from the shackles. Stop listening to all these pundits, to all the noise, the media, the governor, the leaders. Have a mind of your own. Do the research. Surround yourself with people as smart as you, if not more. At the end of the day, you become the average of the 5 closest people to you. If they're all radical capitalists, you're going to become one, whether you like it or not. If they're all losers, socialists, depending on the government, you're going to be like that. So pick up your friends. You don't pick up your parents, but pick up your friends very carefully, your inner circle very carefully. Read the right books, read a lot, develop a passion and go for it, full blast, without any fear. A capitalist there's no net under you. If you make a mistake, you're going to learn. It's okay to fall. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fuck up. This is how you're going to learn. This is how you're going to grow. You know how many times I fucked up in my life? A lot, but that's fine. It created me, my character, everything. I ended up choosing the best people around me, the best inner circle out there, the best opportunities, etc. It takes years, it takes time. Overnight success is 15 years, not overnight, 15 years. And if you don't want all that stuff, don't complain that you don't have money. Don't complain that you're not free. This is your decision. You've chosen not to be free. You've chosen not to be a radical. You've chosen not to be anything like that. Radical capitalism, it doesn't mean you're anti the ordinary people. No, on the contrary, you have to help them. But you have to develop this whole attitude in yourself to become like this. You're building yourself. It's like you're building the muscles. You're going to the gym. You're building your brain, your contact, your network, everything. It's a beautiful fucking trip. I mean, it is an absolutely beautiful trip. It applies, however, a lot of discipline. You're building a Rolls Royce. This is not a Honda. You want to build a Rolls Royce, you're going to make sure that on every single front, you're doing it right.
We've had the honor of sitting down today and speaking with Ziad Abdelnour. He is the president and CEO of Black Hawk Partners. Thank you so much, Ziad, for sitting down with us today and talking about all of these very important topics.
Thank you, Justin. It was my pleasure. Okay, stay here. So what do you think?